Well, it has been the dominant issue here for the past few weeks, and tonight we ask you at home to take a closer look at the Ray Rice scandal, and we let you have a platform to weigh in. We're opening our phone lines right now to get your take on how management also should have not only handled this case, but other shocking situations making headlines this week. And a dominant theme seemingly week after week, guns in America. Less than a month after Ferguson, Missouri erupted following the police-related death of an unarmed black teen, the state adopts a new gun law which, gets this, allows teachers to pack heat in class, and the law doesn't stop there. What would have the scenario been in Ferguson if this law were on the books just 2 weeks ago? Plus, Congressman Eliot Engel speaking to RFL tonight about America's new war on terrorism, what he says needs to be done to defeat ISIS. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us. And tonight, we begin with a closer look at the scandal that still has this nation buzzing, and I'm talking, of course, about the Ray Rice scandal. And I also want to hear from you on this, and we're opening up our phone lines to get your take on not just how management or whatever or the league should or shouldn't have handled this, but just generally your reaction. We've heard from so many different walks of life on this, from people who are advocates in domestic violence in terms of what we as a nation need to curb it right now. We've heard from people who are talking on both sides and how the NFL should or shouldn't have handled this. Fans putting on jerseys here, fans calling for players to be removed from teams, and everything in the gamut. And as I said, our toll-free lines open right now. We'll be getting to those calls very shortly. But let's get back to the story, of course, and this is going to be the last time I show the video for the night here in terms of was video we've seen so many times. And of course, Ray Rice here, he's been dropped from the Ravens and the NFL following the release of that video. The video, of course, where he knocked out his wife with a punch on the elevator at that Atlantic City casino. Now, someone I know suggested that the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell's job might be in jeopardy early this week. And I said, I don't know where you're coming from in this. No way, no how. But after a series of new developments that we didn't know at the beginning of the week, I'm starting to think maybe I'm the one who needs a reality check here. Goodell, as you know, he went to CBS and he did an interview with Norah O'Donnell, one of the morning anchors, and he said definitively he never saw the video that we just showed you. And he also said that after speaking with Rice, it was unclear as to whether Rice had even struck his wife in the elevator.
So did anyone in the NFL see the second videotape before Monday?
No.
No one in the NFL?
No one in the NFL, to my knowledge, and I've been asked that same question, and the answer to that is no. We were not granted that. We were told that that was not something we would have access to. On multiple occasions we asked for it, and multiple occasions we were told no. When we met with Ray Rice and his representatives, it was ambiguous about what actually happened.
Okay, but since that interview, officials in Atlantic County in southern New Jersey, including the prosecutor's office, have said, first of all, we can release that video if there's independent investigations looking into it. And they also said that they did release it, one source did, to the NFL. In fact, they played a recording to a reporter from the Associated Press that heard on that reporting, yes, in fact, we've received it, and it's terrible, and that was weeks ago. There's also confirmation that Rice, in fact, did tell Goodell in those private meetings from not one source but two sources that were privy in that meeting that he had, in fact, hit his fiancée in the elevator. Both of those contradicting what Goodell said, that A, they didn't have any rights to it, and B, it never got to their office, and secondly, that in fact, Rice never indicated or misled him as to what actually happened in the elevator. We all had seen what happened post the elevator, where his wife was dragged unconscious out of it here. Now, there has been a lot of fallout from the Rice scandal. Rice has lost nearly every single endorsement deal he has. New Rochelle High School from Westchester County, from which he hails, and he being one of his alma mater's proudest grads here, they have taken his jersey off its wall of fame. And last night, singer Rihanna, who was supposed to perform here right before the football game on CBS, her act was pulled. She, of course, suffered from a domestic violence attack at the hands of Chris Brown here. So this is playing out in all different ways here, and it seems that the league and the commissioner are playing catch-up at every turn. And at the Ravens game last night, a lot of fans here, even female fans, were wearing Ray Rice jerseys, so the confusion of this seemingly growing by the day. One family of Ravens fans had taken, though, a bad situation and made it, I believe, a positive one for kids. Brian Bartlett, he changed the name Rice in the back of his daughter's jersey to words nice, so it could be spelled out, be nice to girls. All right, I want to bring in a panel on this, and then, as you see right there, the phone lines are open right now. I want to get your calls on this one. Again, our toll-free lines are open right now, and as soon as I get them queued up in there, we're going to bring you into our conversation. We have T.J. McCormick, Republican consultant, Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. And guys, I ask you both this. We're going to get into the next segment, a series of events, real events playing out in real time in the professional ranks and in media on how people commenting or people whose actions mirror this very similarly, how they should be treated by their respective managements. We'll get to that in a second here, but as we ask our audience their general reaction to the story as it's unfolded, I'll start with you, TJ. Has the league and the team been a day and a dollar short every single step of the way? And does it seem to you this has really been more about CYA than really about doing the right thing?
They dropped the ball at the very beginning. They dropped the ball. And the first time they dropped the ball was when they gave him the initial two-day suspension. They gave him a 2-day suspension, a 2-game suspension, I'm sorry, which was a drop in the bucket for a guy like this. And basically what that amounted to was the first gaffe. Then Goodell comes back and he figures he can cover his tail by saying, from now on, this is our league-wide policy. And with that league-wide policy, there are much more stringent codes and bigger eventual lifetime bans. At the time that Ray Rice committed this act, you would have had steeper penalties had you been caught smoking pot, apparently. Anyway, now though, it's hard to believe, and I think anyone in their right mind would imagine that there's no way that Roger Goodell, the NFL, and all of their money and all of their power, their security team is made up of FBI and State Department type dudes.
You got to think if they wanted to know, they could have known. And now we learn, Andrew, that they did, or at least certainly the prosecutor's office said that we did tell them, and more than we tell them, we shared it with them, we gave it to them, and we got acknowledged receipt of the package. And we don't know who did it. Goodell still says that they've now had an investigation of the former FBI director, Robert Mueller, who's now going to be conducting an investigation as well. I'd still love to know, was the commissioner part of that decision, or did the league owner say, no, we're going to have a little bit of our own protection here, and we're going to be,
I think all of the above. I think you nailed it on all of them.
I think Mueller's firm also does business with the NFL, so it's not like a truly independent investigation as
Although
well.
I really think with Robert Mueller, who doesn't need the money necessarily from this, he's hardly going to compromise his name and his reputation by trying to do a whitewash job for the league. I really think
No,
I hope
not.
But has anything that the NFL has done in the way they've handled this give you any confidence at all, even going forward? I mean, clearly either Goodell intentionally ignored the information that he had, or the NFL was so bad at doing it that they clearly didn't want to know.
They absolutely were bad at it, or they were Look, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't at this point. He looks like a fool. The NFL looks completely negligent if they, A, did see the video and covered it up, or B, didn't see the video.
Andrew, do you think we sit down here, we've seen seminal events in America, unfortunately not with gun violence after Newtown, but in other things where things have changed. We've seen, look, in short order here, look about how America looks at gay relationships, recognizing gay marriage. The velocity of that policy issue changed. And it changed, whether it was because Joe Biden said an off-comment remark or whatever the case may be, but it seemed that legislation caught up with culture. We've seen drunk driving become uncool, as we say on this, and certainly prosecutions and ad campaigns were a big part about it. Smoking, to a certain degree, we can say as well.
Sure.
Do you think, culturally, domestic violence will be looked down upon with not just a lot more condemnation, but law enforcement, employers, everyone else will look at this across the board as not a gray area, but a black and white taboo.
I would like to think so. I don't really think so. I think we tend to get very focused on the flavor of the week when it comes to news stories, and all of a sudden everything changes. Much like after Newtown, there was a lot of focus on it for about 6 weeks, and then it sort of disappeared off the national radar. The other thought is that we are a nation of second chances, and there are some people in very public positions, obviously, for whom this is going to have a deeper impact. But should everybody who's in a domestic violence case be fired from their job, no matter what their job happens to be? We have to find out what the balance is going to be. But I tend to think there's going to be less attention on this as time goes by, and you know.
It's not, and I think the video plays a huge part in this. It's not often that you see anybody cold cocked. It's not often that you see somebody struck and knocked out like that, and like a rag doll. You rarely see that.
The league is now going to have a couple situations. We're going to get into one in the coming segment where you have a prominent player in his prime, arguably critical to his team's performance, who has already been convicted in one court. Now, in this particular state, he'll have a chance to go before a second court with a jury trial here. But the teams have options. You don't have to break a contract to decide that I'm going to deactivate you for the week and you're not going to wear my uniform here. You can make those statements, and it's not just the NFL. You can punish people who say certain things that are acceptable or not, or make light of situations if you're an employer in a media company, that person's not a representation of you. So there is different statements you can make that you don't always have to hide behind, well, let the courts work it out. It's not really my place here. Let's go to the phone lines right now. And again, you see the toll-free number, everybody. And I want to get your point on this one and how you feel. And there was, you know, there are so many cases that are playing out right now and people trying to find out where that line is. I don't think it was a gray one here, but some other people struggled with it until that second video came out. What do you think? Let's start off first with Eric, who's calling us from Huntington. Eric, go ahead. You're on the line. Thanks for joining us.
Richard, I want to thank you for taking my call this afternoon. My issue is really with the commissioner, and exactly at what point did he know about Howard Stern's balls? Baba Booey.
Well, I appreciate that deep thought there, Eric. We're going to get to more calls in 1 second. You know, for me, I have found, at least on my end, that if you don't have the video, there's almost this sense of disbelief. You read, though, some of the horrific allegations that are attached to some of the other domestic violence cases, and to think that we got even this far, you know, that you have to have video or you can't prosecute it, I don't know, it speaks volumes.
It does, and you know, and I mean, you're talking about a professional athlete in his prime with all that bulk and all that heft. I mean, remember the first videos that you saw, by the way, it was her being dragged out of, you know, like lifeless out of the elevator, and you just knew the whole time that, and then to see it, you know, again, that's what I just keep going back to, the fact that we're eyewitnesses to the punch itself.
Did you really need to see it? I mean,
no,
you
of course
able
not.
To see it from the first
I knew from
and
the
and the NFL apparently needed to see it because they suspended him for 2 games until they saw the second one. It's amazing that A, the NFL was that lax about the whole thing, and B, I think on a lot of female-related issues, rape in the military, sexual assault on college campuses, domestic abuse cases, it seems like the burden of proof is almost too high to be surmounted in a lot of cases. Well, and there's a lot of people who are complaining they can't get justice.
I've had on former prosecutors, especially who specialize in prosecuting these cases, said, there was no you have video to do a diversion program from him in Atlanta County, New Jersey. It's ridiculous. You should have been able to prosecute this guy for more. People say that whenever people say it's too hard to do it, that's full of it. All right, what I want to do is I'm going to take a break. Phone lines are jammed. We come back, we're going to go to those phone lines, and I'm going to give you callers out there, I'm giving you fair warning, I'm going to give you specific, real examples, and you tell me what you would do if you were management in these situations. We're going to get to those situations and your calls right after this.